Good. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Where are you at?
I'm in, physically where am I located?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Southern California.
Oh, okay.
So below, south of LA.
Okay. Yeah.
And you are?
I'm
where are you at?
just outside Detroit, actually.
Oh, okay. How's your weather?
It's actually really, really nice. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, send it this way, because I was promised, 362 days a year of complete sunny weather, and I'm getting rain and all kinds of things that we're just not used to seeing here.
Yeah, I have a friend that I was interviewing the other day, and he's living in Australia now, but he's from LA, and he was in LA visiting the other day, and he said it's just crazy, like, just the difference in weather, like, what it normally is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I left New Jersey, was so that I could, come live in this, and all of a sudden it turns into New Jersey on me, so.
Well, yeah, we're like, we're usually pretty heavily into winter at this time, and it's been really abnormally warm, so who knows?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I was trying to make myself feel better, if you told me, like, you're having some kind of blizzard and it was, 14 below zero, I say, okay, well, maybe this isn't so bad, Funny. Yes. So, well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Any help you can get in this crazy musical maze of an industry is always
yes, yeah. Well, I was going to say, when was the last time you had released anything?
Well, it's been a while. It has been approximately about 9 years, I think.
Oh wow, yeah, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, lot of road between then and now. So, yeah, it's been a while.
And I was going to say, did you find it a lot more difficult trying to get it out there? Because it has. I mean, just in the last few years, the music industry has just changed so much.
No question about it, Tracy. This is like, imagine somebody blindfolded you, took you to Pluto, dropped you off and said, here you go, knock yourself out. It is an entirely, completely different world than the last time I was out in it, at this level. I've always remained connected into my music, and there's just been a lot of changes for me over the last many years, in terms of, coming out of the band and then going solo and working on stuff in between. And so I have been connected into, my music, but I wasn't out pushing it out into the real world,
yeah,
the virtual world. I guess it is today.
Yeah.
So yes, very, very, very different, and I have learned more about the music industry in the last 3 months than I think I have learned in the last, 15 years collectively, maybe 20 years collectively. It just kind of forced my hand into, seeing the new world, how it works, and with technology, with social media, everything that's attached to it.
Yeah.
So you can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm living proof of that.
And I was going to say, in some ways, it's easier to get the music out there. It's instantaneous, which is nice.
No, you make a point there, and you can. You can do a lot of things. The technology itself has created an environment where you can virtually record your stuff at a super high quality without having to necessarily go to the massive expense of being in the studio, where you've got to, and then the time that's involved. I can get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there I am. I'm working on my stuff, and I don't have to wait until the studio opens up, kind of thing, and the engineer's available. So there's the upside of the technology, which helps the ability to push your music out to the public, to the world. At the same time, what I realize is that the amount of data, the amount of content that is available and hitting people is extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I'll put out a friend, you make a contact with somebody here, like my page, right? So for every one person that I say like my page, I get 10, please like my pages back.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, wait a second, everything's multiplying, and all around me, and it's just nuts. So it's trying to get your stuff heard and getting eyeballs to what you do is by far, and I'm sure it's always been that way, but it is, I think, more complicated just because of all the sheer data that's hitting people, not just from a musical standpoint, but every time they grab their Facebook or any social media, they're being inundated by all of their friends and all the other the news articles and everything else that's going on, right, is hitting the same thing. So people want this 2-second, like, hit and swipe, and move on. So to get people to just sit, let's say, and just spend 4 minutes, 5 minutes looking at your stuff, listening to it, very complicated.
And obviously with this album, it's very personal for you, of course. And I mean, just getting a chance to get it out there and get people to hear. But I was gonna say just in this time period, I mean, right now there's just so much, like you said, there's a lot going on out there, a lot of stuff, distractions and things like that. I mean, I think, but at the end of the day, I think this is a great time to have this coming out because it is kind of a message of hope in a way.
Great point. That's an excellent point, Tracy. And it's funny because it is about, it was born out of grief, grieving period. But the message, I think, is that really, no matter what you're going through, it could be the loss of somebody, which was in my case. I think it's kind of the overall driving message of the piece. But you also realize that people go through loss in a lot of ways. They lose their jobs, they lose their houses, they lose their spouses. Same the divorce, death. People go through grieving periods, and when you are, I think there's people try to provide you these magical words, a lot of cliche things that people say, trying to help you feel better. But when you're in these periods of time, I think it's very hard. It may create a Band-Aid for a couple of moments, but the sticky factor of it being long-lasting or changing your paradigm can be very challenging. So, content, the message I was trying to get across to people, and what I had gone to saying to people over the years, having gone through my own massive loss, and having people, say to me, a variety of different things that didn't really help. And it's funny because I usually ended up, comforting them because they didn't know what to say, and they were trying to be helpful, and then I'm finding myself, consoling them kind of a thing. And that's oftentimes what happens because you feel bad because you realize that people are uncomfortable with the situation. So I got to saying to people, look, there are no magic words. The fact of the matter is, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to make you feel better on a larger scale. So that's the truth, and so that's the reality. Once you have a sense of what reality is, it's amazing how what's easier is for people to accept things once they understand the reality of a situation. The other side of that was, though, but even though I don't have those words that can change your entire paradigm, what I can tell you from my own experience is that there is light at the end of this thing. You will come out the other side. There's time and distance are the only things that heal. So if you know that, and you accept that it is a matter of acceptance, I'm not going to help you fast track the acceptance, but it will help you. In fact, it will help you get to a level of acceptance sooner because once you get the concept that this is the way it is. This is the situation I'm in. But there is hope and there is light, and at some point I have to let time and distance just do its thing. And that, to me, that was very comforting once that was kind of shown me. And I went through, it was 5 years, five solid years of going through my own situation. So before I was able to come out the other side.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm belaboring the point, but I think that was the overall message of what I'm trying to get across to people.
And have you seen that feedback coming back from people that have, heard the track and seen the video?
I have had some amazing, truly amazing things that have come out of it, and messages from people that came into the view of the video. It's one thing to hear it in the song. It's another thing entirely when you see it in context of the video, because there's a lot going on. It's a subtle video. It's not doesn't have a lot of movement and so forth, but it is, at least from what I get from most of the people that have seen it, it is visually impacting. And there's a lot of subliminal stuff going on there, a lot of symbolic stuff that's happening that speaks to, I think it was the perfect blend of visuality with the lyrics, with the content or the vibe of the song. And I think collectively, I think the whole thing speaks message. I had a couple days ago, I received a note from a woman in San Diego. Actually, this is a couple weeks ago. And what happened was her daughter had been killed in a car accident on Super Bowl Sunday. I think it was 17 years ago, 15, 17 years ago. When the Super Bowl came around a few weeks ago, it was the exact same date. Right, so it was the Sunday of whatever what the date was, February, whatever you call it, 12th or whatever it was. It was that same date on a Sunday, and of course now the Super Bowl is generating a lot of visual activity.
Right.
So this thing was in her face all the time, and she was having a really super difficult time. It was 15 years, 17 years of kind of grieving over her daughter, and it never really seemed to fade for her. And she was. All this visuality was happening for her, all this information, all these visual things of the date said that she had been praying for a miracle. She was praying, laying in bed, she was praying for a miracle that something would speak to her, something would help her change the paradigm and the deep grief that she was feeling. And through haphazard or coincidental chain of events, this video landed in her lap, in her visual space. And she wrote me a note saying that it was the first time in those 17 years that she had gotten a sense of relief,
wow.
a point of view that allowed her to understand what could be for her, and that there was hope. And it was, so from my perspective, for everything that I've done to try and launch this thing, for everything that mission accomplished, I've already achieved everything that I wanted, not everything, but I achieved a tremendous amount out of what I was trying to get done with release of that video and the entire No Shadow and Sun CD. And I've had many, many situations very much just like that.
And when you were working on this, how long did it take you to put the album together?
I wrote the album over a course of years. You say I was going through my own grieving period, and I didn't really start writing the material for the CD until as I was coming into that place of light, we're starting to see a transition into, okay, there is an end, not end to the grief, but there is a transitional place to go. And through those transitions and kind of the experiences that were happening, I was started writing this material. So the whole CD really collectively revolves around this whole process and different phases of it, different times of it. So I wrote all the songs. At the time I had I Savant, my last band. I had the guys, we were still together playing. I was about halfway through the process, and both my bandmates had to move out of state within 30 days of each other. And one went to Georgia, one went to Arkansas, one went to Florida. They made a stop in Georgia for a little while. So now I was left with this truly half-baked kind of thing. So then I had to, think through it and well, maybe I should just really continue this as solo work.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe that time for me to just do the Steven Vertun thing and kind of leave the I Savant. And I Savant had been together for 18 years. So I continued that, and I just started calling in a variety of musicians, calling in some favors, and paying some people and calling in favors on others, and finally put the thing together. So I finished it was finally mastered. That was about, that was only released, that was February 3rd of this year, the CD was released. So it was mastered, I think we finished mastering it sometime in November of last year.
And the other great thing is, too, I know some of the proceeds from the album and the single are also going, to St. Jude's and Wounded Warriors and some of those charities, which is another way you're kind of providing that hope and stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a pretty significant career path, outside of music. And so the music, the nice thing about being where I'm at in this phase of my life is that I don't have to, I'm not in that position where I definitely need to make it a living, and
right.
I had many years of doing that, and it's nice to be in a place where we're financially, secure, and I can do this in ways that don't require I have to really scratch and try to make as much money as I can have and support, the lifestyle and everything else that's going on. So it's very relaxed for me, and I get to do things in a really philanthropic manner. So the 30% of the proceeds from sales are going to go directly to those organizations. The balance of the money will be earmarked and spent specifically on creating more opportunities where I can create more money to make more donations. So it's not an income stream for me. It's specifically everything I'm doing for this point on with all the music that I'm already writing my next album, but
okay.
We'll get to that. And so there's all of it is designed to support these charitable organizations.
And then as far as looking at live shows, are you planning on getting out and playing some?
That's another great question. I keep going back and forth with that. Obviously, the music, most of what I write requires a band. I mean,
right.
I can probably turn them all into acoustic, renditions. But so I have to think my way through that. I'm kind of focused on getting this thing out, getting people to hear it, creating some kind of a vibe, see what I can do there. And then I really miss the live thing. I have to say, it's kind of gets you in your DNA and in your blood. I truly miss that part of the business. So I'm thinking heavily on it. I was talking to an old bandmate just yesterday, as a matter of fact. So we'll see where that goes. So I think the fact that I even called him and started talking to him about it would suggest that there's a part of me that's going to, ramp up and do that in the near future.
And I know with I Survive, I mean, you guys got to open for a lot of big acts, and you did a lot of shows, I know. So obviously that's probably something that you miss, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We headlined a lot, and we supported a lot of other bigger bands, and that was always, that's just always so great. There's nothing like doing a live performance thing.
And I know with your music, I mean, there's a lot of blend of a lot of different things in there. But for you, what do you kind of feel has been your biggest influence?
That's a really great question. The album has been reviewed about a half a dozen times in the last 2 weeks, and it's funny because each of the reviewers, which now if you look at the information that I have provided from a bio standpoint, musical history standpoint, and so forth, all I've said is that my music tends to span a few different decades. And what I do is I've taken the style, started in the 70s, taken some 70s, and then I moved to the 80s. Brought the 70s into the 80s, brought the 80s into the 90s, 90s into the 2000s. And I've only suggested that I think my music kind of spans a wide variety of decades, styles. Interestingly enough, all of the reviewers that have reviewed the CD, that have listened to it, have said that it's a blend of grunge, pop, rock, and alternative music with some blues thrown in. And it's just a mixture of these influences that have all kind of come into this collective thing that kind of fits together and makes linear sense. I had never really thought about it that way, oddly enough. I thought about it in terms of decades because, even in those generations, even those decades, I would always listen to a variety of different styles. I didn't get super locked into any one thing particularly. And so there's maybe in the 70s, I did listen to a lot of progressive stuff, Pink Floyd, Crimson, Yes, ELP, bands like that. Those were kind of my favorite bands. But if you listen to my stuff, most of it doesn't even, oddly enough, that is the style that I would have, from a 70s standpoint, that is the style that would have come out of into my music. So, it's funny, some of the things I listened to didn't really have as much impact, and yet there were other things that I guess, really did.
And I think even you have the little section where it's influences on your site, I mean, even those, I think almost all the ones that were listed are all bands that have that have done experimenting or like to experiment, and just, none of them are really locked into one sound either, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Yeah, kind of like I like to stay current. I like to be on the forefront of kind of what's happening to a high degree. So I listen to a lot of current stuff, even as I get older. Which, back to the original question about the touring thing, part of the reason why I've decided to do the solo thing is one of the challenges for me is that at my age, you got to find guys that are still engaged in the industry. We were close to my age, right? Still engaged, still want to do the live thing. Not only that, if they are still playing, they're interested in doing an original project and not necessarily going out and playing weddings and bar mitzvahs and things to make money. And then on top of that, I got to find guys that are into the same style of music as I am, because I still play a relay. It vacillates from power ballads to aggressive rock, not heavy metal. I don't go that far, but I got a lot of this stuff has got some really really significant edge to it. So you got to find guys that are willing to do a more current sound. And it's like that needle and haystack finding those guys. So I thought, well, if I do the solo thing, that might be a little bit easier, because then it's, you're working from a different standpoint. Maybe you're paying people to do the work. Maybe you find some of those guys that really enjoy the original thing, and like the current, more current sound.
And what was it about music that drew you in the first place, and then later the guitar, of course?
Okay, good question. Well, I started off in the accordion. I'll give you a fast track because I can go over a lot of background in that whole part of my life. I picked up the accordion at 5, and my parents needed to find an outlet for me because of behavioral issues. So the doctor said, "Hey, well, you got to get him interested in something." So a musical instrument. My father, interestingly enough, was a square dance caller by profession, and so we grew up. When I was very young, he had a pet shop, and he and my mother started square dancing. And then he decided that he liked it enough that he wanted to become a square dance caller. Now, this is in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
This isn't like we're in Tennessee, and he made a career out of it. It was an interesting time. So I had a lot of country stuff that was going on, in the house, that kind of thing. But anyway, they gave me a choice of instruments, so I picked the accordion because I just liked the complexity of it. And the kind of ADHD kind of personality and all those buttons and knobs and levers and so forth kind of appealed to me. So I got on the accordion, and I was doing that, and I played for that. I took lessons and played for 5 years. never was able to keep the notes in my head. I couldn't. My head wouldn't wrap itself around learning the actual notation of music. But I had this incredible ability to hear something one time and then be able to replicate it once I heard it. So the teacher thinks that I'm actually reading. I'm looking at the pages, I'm doing my thing, and I kind of would chicken peck my way through the notation. And then once I got the melody in my head, once I got to the song once, I could then replicate it back and play it normally. So they're all thinking I'm some kind of little prodigy, right? And they didn't understand that I wasn't reading the music, right? I was just mimicking what I could just heard myself play one time. So I got away with that for a whole bunch of time. Then I hit my teens and kind of realized that it was just no cool way to make myself. You couldn't look cool in the corner,
right?
No matter how many rock stances you tried to take, it just wasn't going to translate into flying V guitar kind of a moment. So I took up guitar, and then what got me really serious about it was I was coming out of like 16, 17 years old, just started driving, and I was in New York, and I was coming Lincoln Tunnel, coming back into New Jersey. It was like 5 o'clock at night, and so I had the radio on in the car. What happens once you get into the tunnel? The radio just kind of disappears, but it went blank, and you couldn't hear anything. So low-level static. When I came out of the tunnel, and as I was coming out, the static started to clear. Right, when it started to create static, you couldn't get anything. The static starts kicking in, and there's this sound. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice. As I clear the tunnel, there's this voice that says, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is our great pleasure at WNEW New York to introduce you to the world premiere of Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run." So that was 1975, I believe, right? And so they played the entire Born to Run album in its entirety on the radio. And that particular CD, everything about that entire thing was what sparked my entire then future directory, really devoting myself into the music, and I got very, very serious at that point.
Yeah,
so I started my first band and went from there.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm just finishing up the autobiography, actually, and that's the majority of it is that little time period there where he's working on that album, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a massive influence for me. He's a homeboy, and it was clearly for me that was the inspiration to get everything started. And I went out immediately. I listened to the whole album. I got home, and I think like maybe the next day, within a couple of days, I was already contacting guys that I knew and saying, "Let's start a band." And I knew just I probably had a handful. I probably knew 4 or 5 chords, that I could play proficiently at the time. And we started. That was that. We went straight up.
And for you, what is it for, being able to do the solo stuff, what's been the best thing for you, just being able to do it on your own?
The best thing has been this. Even though I've always been the principal songwriter and voice of the bands that I have been in, I've been very fortunate. I've only played in really effectively actually three major bands, and all of them had pretty long longevity. They had really good bandmates. One kind of transmorphed into the Sparrow band, kind of transmorphed into iSavant, so there was some common players there. The one biggest major advantage for me of being a solo artist is that when I was playing with the band, even though again as the principal singer-songwriter, the other players tend to influence what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in the process of writing, and you put the stuff together, they have their own view of direction and kind of the sound that they want to produce. So I may be trying to write something that is more, alternative sounding, but I got a guitarist who has a preference towards, say, 70s style music. What is happening is that alternative thing kind of transgress, it gets a blending, which kind of has its benefit, but it can lose the purity of what I heard in my head and what I'm trying to get to. As a solo artist, I'm in a position where I can construct, because I do play keyboards, I play guitar, I play keyboards, I write, I can do the drum programming, and I can play a marginal level of bass. So I can kind of construct the overall view of what the song's supposed to sound like, keep it pure to what I have in my head, then bring it out to. So when I was finishing up the No Shadow Sun CD, when I brought those guys guys in, once I didn't have my full bandmates in, I was able to have guys come in and say, this is what I'm looking for. And they would start to play, and I'd say, I'd like you to do X, Y, Z. Let's navigate that a little bit differently. You know, and I was able to truly get what I was looking to pull out of the song, as opposed to kind of, because you don't want to anger your bandmates, right?
Right.
You're all working together. So, you know, you got to kind of let them have a bit of their thumbprint on it. Doesn't mean the song isn't a good song. It just means it's not necessarily what I heard in my head to the degree. Maybe getting, 67%, 70% of what I was hoping to get in the way I heard it. So I think that has been the overall major. And, you don't have to be responsible for having the practices together and managing everybody's businesses, and their personalities and, everything that goes. But on the other hand, I also miss having that camaraderie, that osmosis thing that happens when you do have guys on board. So I'd say that, that's the biggest benefit, though, that I can actually get out of it exactly what I'm hearing in my head. All those voices all coming together.
And then you kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, but just kind of looking ahead at the rest of the year, what's kind of the biggest goal?
My biggest goal this year, so we've got the Ghost video done, and I'm working with a gentleman by the name of Matt Zane. Matt's done a bunch of videos. He's got a couple hundred videos under his belt. Brilliant guy. He really put on, I had this concept of what I wanted. The guy was able to manifest it in a very, very nice way. He's just an excellent human being. So I'm going to continue working with him. We're going to do our next video sometime in the next 30 days. We'll be filming the next video CD. One of the biggest challenges that I've had with this overall current project has been when I released the Ghost video. If you're looking at that, you're thinking, okay, so, this guy is not a 22-year-old guy. He's using this song. So my guess is that he's probably got an album of acoustic pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they're seeing as one thing. And they've got this view that, okay, he must be an acoustic guy. He's doing almost a, Ghost, the song itself is reasonably, it could be considered a country crossover.
Yeah.
I've heard that from a lot of people. Well, what they don't know is that the first song on the CD, that Ghost is number 5 in order. But the first song on the CD, for example, is Radio. Now, Radio is a very aggressive song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it goes another, comparatively to Ghost, it's certainly not thrash metal, but comparatively to Ghost, it is thrash metal, So the whole CD has a wide variety of songs, going from acoustic-based numbers to medium-paced rockers to more aggressive stuff on the other side. And I think the album has a fairly, equal spread across that whole spectrum. So the challenge has been, I think that people hear that you go Shadow Sun, and if you're just, if you're into acoustic songs, great, and we'll go listen to the rest of it. But a lot of people would take the view that, well, this is what he's doing, so not really my genre necessarily. But if they were able to hear something else, a couple of the songs off the CD, they would realize real content of what exists there.
Yeah.
So that's a long-winded way of saying the next release will be Radio. We're going to do the video to that song, which is going to provide a counterpoint to Ghost and kind of show the different, the breadth of distance between the two songs, and then hopefully people get, okay, so in between those two goalposts is probably a bunch of other material that goes across the spectrum. So to answer your question, so my goal is to continue getting that, get the next video done. I'm writing, I'm just at the front end of writing my next batch of material. I'm going to be re-releasing the last CD, which was the one that the last release that we did, which is called Waterline. And Waterline is going to be, we have remastered Waterline.
Okay.
So there's a couple of songs. I took 3 of the 12 songs on Waterline. I remastered them, and I put them on the, I put them as bonus tracks into the Ghost CD, so that people start getting an idea of where that one's going. So that will be released sometime this summer, and then hopefully this next round of songs that I'm writing will be ready to be released in January or February of 2018, or maybe right before Christmas if I can, focus and get it done.
Yeah. Well, okay, awesome.
So yeah, it's gonna be a busy year, and then maybe do some live stuff if I can, if I can pull that trigger for myself. I just, it is, Tracy, I'm one of those people that if I'm gonna do something, my DNA is that I go full in.
Yeah.
And so I kind of know. I'm old enough to know that I have to mentally restrain myself before I commit to something. I have to kind of really think through it, because the second I go, okay, I'm going to do that, then I'm committed and I go, to make that decision first. But I think that's probably in the cards. I just have to make sure I got enough room on my plate.
And then finally, if you have any final words for the people that are getting out there and checking out the track and listening to the music.
Sure. I would say that the first thing would be, certainly, just remember there's always light at the end of whatever tunnel you think. No matter how dark the tunnel you're in, there is always going to be light at the end of it. And it is rarely ever a freight train, as they say. There's always goodness. You just have to be patient and find your way through it. But it's there. Number two, I would say the next major message would be, no matter if anybody ever tells you you're too old to rock and roll, well, you know what to tell them. No, you chase your dreams, and you do things because they're meaningful for you. If you're passionate about something, go and do it. Don't let age get in your way. Don't let other people's opinions get in the way. I recently had somebody ask me if I was having a midlife crisis. And I said, what? And they said, yeah, I got a midlife crisis. So I, of course, immediately ran up into the garage to see if there was a red Corvette.
Yeah.
And then I ran up into the bedroom upstairs to make sure there wasn't a girlfriend, that my wife hadn't discovered yet. And there was nobody there. And I thought, well, why are you asking me about, what do you mean? All of a sudden, you're back into this music playing and doing all these things. And it's like, I thought, I'm in a midlife crisis. This is what I do. It's my DNA. I breathe this. I'm doing it because, no, this isn't that, I'm not doing this to create a career path. It's not, I'm not judging whether it could have been, but I'm not chasing it for that reason. I'm doing this specifically because this is my passion. That's the only reason. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or whatever. You do what you do because you love to do it. And it's like breathing for you. So for me, that's what it is. And so, I encourage anybody to pursue your dreams, no matter how old you are, no matter what your limitations, handicaps, no matter what you think, whatever limitations you put on yourself, those will be your limitations. And whatever limitations you do not put on yourself, that will be really clearly open and available roads for you to travel.
Awesome.